Good enough. So hi everyone, we are now live and hopefully people can start joining into the chat and coming in there. If someone wants to send a quick tweet just to say I can do that and just let everyone know that we're here. Let's see. And I'm just looking if someone, I was going to say, and I'm looking at the group chat, it looks pretty quiet right now. So I'm just looking to see where we can see that people are actually here, because this should be a public event. Someone can confirm that you can see this online. Here, I'm maybe going to look at this myself. It's always exciting getting started. Okay, there we go. It's live now. We got 8 people watching us. So yay. So all that exciting intro, people are really excited. Let's get started. So maybe let's do a quick round of introductions. Let's start with the host. So hi everyone, to those who don't know me, I'm Rachel from the Shades of Orange BookTube channel. And if the other hosts want to introduce themselves, then we'll let the authors say hello. Yay. So all that exciting intro, people are really excited. Let's get started. So maybe let's do a quick round of introductions. Let's start with the host. So hi everyone. Sorry, it's very quiet. Cami or Jason, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jason from Jason's Weird Reads. It's great to be here.
Hi guys, even though you can't see me, I'm Cami from Cami's Corner. I'm excited to be here and I want to thank both of our authors who decided to join us today. This is super exciting because it is such a unique opportunity to be able to sit down and talk with authors about their books. And I find that the more readily available social media is, these opportunities become available, but not all authors are willing to sit down and discuss their works and be as cool as you guys are. And honestly, both of you from day one on different platforms, of course, I've reached out to Christa personally through Erin and, Cameron, this is our first encounter here talking, but you've been super delightful on the social media platforms. So thank you so much for making this so enjoyable and helping us round it out.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Cameron, so tell us about yourself. I
enjoy long walks on the beach. No, I wish I was by the beach. I live in Colorado, so I'm super landlocked. I'm obviously a giant 80s slasher fan. And I'm obsessed with the old school stuff and Stephen King and R.L. Stine and just slasher movies. And I write trashy 80s slasher books like the Kill River books and Disco Death Trap. And my newest is Golf Curse. And that's what I do, pretty much.
Fantastic. And Christa, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, especially because your book, of course, we're going to be reading your short story collection in August. So probably a lot of people haven't started it yet, although I've heard there's a couple of people who are ahead of the game and are keeners and have already started it.
Yeah. So my name is Christa Carmen. I'm also obsessed with all of the things that Cameron just mentioned. So I'm right there with all of that. I'm a huge horror fan. Just in general, film and literature. And I published my short story collection, Something Borrowed, Something Blood-Soaked, almost a year ago now. Last August, I think it was like 21st, and with Unnerving. And it's a 13-story collection. And it kind of runs the gamut from psychological horror, supernatural, gothic, a little bit of hardcore horror, slapstick comedy horror. It's got a whole bunch of everything in it. So hopefully people like it.
No, that's fantastic. Okay, I'm just now watching the chat. So it looks like people are coming in. So I just have that in here. So yeah, it looks like lots of people are joining us. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. So thank you everyone who's here. We are going to take some questions from the people watching. So if you want to start popping your questions for both the authors into the chat, just while you're kind of coming up with those, we're going to ask a couple questions ourselves just to kind of warm things up. So I thought let's start with the really superficial, and I want to talk covers because I got to say, of the indie authors I have worked with, both of you have incredibly iconic covers. And Christa, I've never read your books before. I have read Cameron's before we started this. And I've got to say, part of the reason we chose your book is because that cover is so nice. I have wanted to read your book since I first saw that cover floating around, probably Twitter, things like that. So do you want to let us know, like, did you get any influence on that? Is that something that you helped design or did you commission it?
So my publisher, Unnerving, is run by Eddie Generous. He is the editor, publisher, the whole 9 yards, but he's also the illustrator, the artist rather. Mm-hmm. So, and if he is watching this, he's probably dying laughing because I actually pushed back on the cover and was a little worried because, like I said a couple minutes ago, my book is... each story in the collection is a little bit different, and there are definitely the stories that are really well represented by that cover, but I was like, I don't know, what if it's too hardcore, and then like the people that like gothic and supernatural and psychological will be turned off by it? And he was like, no, trust me, it's perfect, I know what I'm doing. And it's funny, I think I was just nervous about a lot of things in general with this being my first book that I put out. So as soon as I accepted it and just sort of went forward with it, once the decision was made, I was like totally there. It was when it was still kind of up in the air and in discussion. I was like, well, maybe we should talk about it more. And it was obviously a good decision because ever since then, that is one of the things that people mention all the time. And it's also allowed me to have a little bit of fun. I've gone to like Rhode Island Comic-Con and had like a creepy pig mask with me, and been able to make the connection with people for that, and it's definitely memorable. So
did you fly? Like, did you have to go like through airport security with a pig mask?
So I actually live in Rhode Island. So there's a lot of like horror cons in Rhode Island, which I'm lucky enough to be able to attend. Oh. So no, I didn't have to go through the airport with the pig mask, but I was like walking through the parking garage and even a little bit of downtown Providence, like with this pig mask sort of like hanging out the side of my purse. So I don't know if anyone noticed. If they did, they didn't say anything to me.
They're just like, oh, that's Christa. Just do anything.
She's got a creepy deflated pig mask in her purse.
That's why I love this genre. It's like no other authors have like these stories.
Yeah.
I was actually wondering how did this collection come about? How did you get involved with Unnerving?
Yeah, so I actually published in Unnerving magazine, I think it was, so if this is 2019, I think January of 2017, I published in issue 4 or 5, one of the stories that's in the collection, Red Room. And, it was a really great experience, and it instantly like allowed me to become connected with people like Erin and Eddie, of course. And it was just really quickly like a kind of tight little community where people were really active on Twitter. And I really enjoyed the experience of the whole thing. And I, subscribed to the magazine right away, and I really liked what was being put out with it. And then I didn't really have any plans to put a collection together, but because I had liked Unnerving so much and enjoyed the experience so much, when I saw his call for submissions, it just, a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I'm just going to try to do this. I'm going to put a collection together and just submit it and see what happens. And he was willing to publish it, and we worked, we tweaked some stuff in it. One of the short stories became a novella. Some of them got changed up and edited a little bit, some more significantly. And then we put out what y'all are going to be reading shortly.
Actually, I was one of the people like that some people who have started early. I started last night. I read 3 or 4 short stories as well. And I read Red Room that you mentioned, and that story is messed up, but I really like the mystery in that story with your use of modern technology to create that sort of weird mystery of pictures showing up. when there is absolutely no memory of what's going on. That was brilliant. How did you come up with that?
So I guess I kind of cheated a little bit because I didn't totally come up with it. It kind of really happened to me. I had an experience where I like woke up one morning and there were photos on my phone that I had not put there. And, kind of, some of the things that I was sort of like, what is this? How could this happen? And I had recently read an article in Tor.com called The Perils of Being Disbelieved. And it was about women in horror and how so often so many of the horror plot lines that we see sort of rely on women being like, no, we should not go into that creepy cabin in the woods. Cameron, you'll probably completely like relate to this with all the slasher stuff. That's usually like the beginning of a slasher is like the female is, no, I don't want to. And she's getting dragged along by her boyfriend. Like, no, it'll be fine, babe. Like nothing's going to happen. And I had that article in my mind, and it was very interesting when I mentioned to people like, yeah, this photo totally showed up on my phone. And I was totally disbelieved. Like, no, you probably screenshotted it or you did it somehow by accident. And I was like, listen, jerks, what if this really is some conspiracy? And then I just had the idea to make it into a much more gruesome story. The similarities end there. I definitely didn't lose my husband to well, I won't say anything else. I won't give any spoilers.
I started reading it early too, and because I wanted to be able to talk to you about it, and I noticed there's two weird like similarities. First off, because it's kind of got this marriage and love theme throughout the whole thing, and my wedding anniversary is actually Friday, so that was kind of weird. I was like, whoa. And then I read the third story, the Something Borrowed, Something Blood Soaked, and you were talking about how it's like there's the wedding at the Stanley Hotel, and I live in Colorado, so my little sister actually got married there, so I kind of know what the whole wedding at the Stanley thing is like. Kind of cool. I was like, whoa, hey.
So I was also married at the Stanley Hotel, so there's another connection for you.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah,
Cool.
there's definitely things in. I don't think there's one story in there that doesn't have like some pretty serious connections to me and things that have happened to me and people in my life. So
that is so cool. And this is kind of the cool thing getting to interact with authors online is like whenever I'm reading something, I'm like, where did this idea come from? Like, especially like I think with horror that, it's always so dark and twisted. And I'm someone, I don't write myself, but just even as a reader, like I love those ideas. I'm always like, oh, like I love to hear like people whose brain kind of goes to those same places. Maybe we'll give Cameron, I know I've talked a bit with him over the years, so I know some of the story, but for those who don't, do you want to give a little bit of backstory on where your covers come from? Because they are really iconic. I mentioned to you before we started recording this that I've had several people message me from the Readalong that started out by just getting the Kindle, just the edition online ebook, and then decided that they needed to actually go and buy the physical copies because they wanted those covers on their shelf. And I very much understand that. So you want to let people know who made your covers?
It was me. So, I wanted to have someone I originally didn't want to paint them, and I did some painting in high school a little bit. I did. There's a monochrome painting actually right behind my cover paintings here that I did from the Tommyknockers. But I didn't really want to paint them, and I actually emailed Tim Jacobus, who did the Goosebumps covers, and he emailed me back, and I was really like in shock because he actually responded to me, and he gave me like a quote and everything, and I couldn't afford anything, but I just said I'll give it a try, and I'll see if I'm even capable of doing it, and I ended up painting them. So these are the paintings. So there's the first one, and then this is the one for Killer River 2. And so yeah, I just paint them, and I just turn on 80s music, and I just have fun with it over like a few weeks. And yeah, I really, it's really fun. I'm hoping to kind of break into, maybe start painting covers for some other people's books too, possibly in the future. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, I kind of just did it out of necessity, and I tried to book off like the old there's like a old, I don't know if you guys have read Paperbacks from Hell, but they talk about zebra horror, and Zebra was this company in the 80s, and they had these skeletons with eyeballs all the time, and I just love that, and I wanted to kind of emulate that and kind of bring that style back.
They're so cool. I did not know that you painted them. They're really rad.
And you paint all your covers, Cameron?
I do, yeah. I have my other paintings too. My Golf Curse is my newest. This is my painting for that one.
Oh my god.
And
I love that.
It's so good.
So yeah, I've painted all 4 of them so far.
We have a question that's
Very
related to your covers, so I'll pop in here. Jade is asking, how do you turn a painting into a cover, like a digital file?
Well, after
complicated?
no, it's not too complicated. After I paint it, I basically just take a picture of it with my phone camera. I just take a picture of it, and I put it into Photoshop, and then I make it kind of they have like template, like on Amazon, because all my books are through Amazon Print on Demand. So you can they have cover templates, and so you just kind of with Photoshop just pop it in there, and I do really custom fonts for like the title. So it's never just like, oh, just use whatever Comic Sans font. That's it. I always I'll kind of mess with it a lot and kind of embellish it a lot. Like the Kill River font is Impact, and but I made it like wavy and blue, and then the K for Kill River is that is Comic Sans, but I painted a little in Photoshop. I painted all the little blood drips over that. So
good.
Yeah, it's kind of customize them quite a bit.
Nice. Well, we have a couple questions from the chat, and this question is to both of you, so maybe we'll start with Christa. It's so hard. I just want to have like we were joking that apparently you can do a live stream up to 8 hours, and I was joking with that. I'm like, oh, there's not enough time. I wanted to ask both of you so many questions. So I read past my bedtime, ask this to both of you. So I'll let Christa go first. And she said, was it hard to put your creations to paper and release it to the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think because, like I said before, there's so much of me in all of my stories, and I think for as many of the stories as have their roots in things like plot and setting and the more mundane aspects, there's also that many stories that have their roots in some of the less mundane aspects. Like I have a background in mental health counseling and addiction counseling, and I'm in recovery myself. It's like in the acknowledgement section of the book. So some people have like made that connection and asked me questions about it before. So there's definitely a lot of stories where I kind of like sat down and really put a lot of myself onto the page. But I think for the collection, it definitely was difficult, but I think I had kind of already gotten over that fear by the time I put the collection out, because I had some stories published in like other markets and stuff. And I kind of got used to it. And so in a way it was more exciting just to have everything in one place and have a tangible book with all the stories that meant the most to me at that time. And so it definitely was nerve-wracking and difficult in the beginning, but now, I like it because I've had I think some of the best experiences that I've had with people providing me feedback have been the people that have had similar experiences and want to talk about it and connect on that level. So, yeah.
For you, Cameron.
I didn't think it was hard to put the book to put my books out. I kind of live with these stories in my mind for years. I mean, I don't usually when I get the initial idea, it'll be 5-6 years before I even get to it. So yeah, I just I think about them like every day, and my stories, I just try to have as much fun with them as possible, and I try to put all these things, like Kill River especially it's just like everything I love just into one story. So like I'm obsessed with water parks, and I'm obsessed with 80s slasher stuff and music, and I just kind of put everything all in the same story. So yeah, I didn't think it was really hard. It was definitely kind of a challenge figuring out like the whole infrastructure of self-publishing and how to get around that and everything, because I don't want my books to be super expensive or anything like that. And when I first started looking into it, it was like, oh yeah, books are like $13-14 now, and I'm like, what? No one's gonna want to pay for that. A guy they've never heard of. But I don't know. You kind of just start feeling it out, and you can Google a lot of it too, or you can always ask people like other authors through social media, like what they've done, and they'll give you a lot of good advice. I mean, I'm always up to give other people good advice based on what I've learned. But yeah, I didn't think it was hard, really.
No, that's great. And I don't know if maybe Kill River wasn't quite as personal for you. I want to say that your new novel, Golf Curse, is a little more inspired by your own life, because you have worked as a maintenance person at a golf course, right? But I don't know if did you go to camp as a 13-year-old girl?
No. I'm obsessed with sleepaway camp. I'm wearing my sleepaway camp shirt right now, Camp Arawak shirt. So I just want to be like that. We did have a thing in 6th grade in Colorado. You go to this thing called Outdoor Lab, and it's like a week-long summer camp type thing, and it's used with school, and so you just do that, and you go all these classes, and you're up in the mountains, and I pictured like the camp in the story. A lot of that was kind of like based off Outdoor Lab, like the lunchroom and everything where they're at, and so yeah, I kind of based it off that, and Kill River's kind of personal in a way. I think the other 2 books that I wrote, Disco Death Trap especially, and Golf Curse, those 2 are a lot more personal to me than the Kill Rivers. Kill Rivers are just kind of fun 80s stuff.
No, I love it. We have one more question for you, Cameron, then we'll switch it back to Christa. But I think it's a really good one. Someone was saying, well, actually, pretty much everyone in the chat was saying that Kill River would make an amazing movie. And so I'm trying to look for the actual question. There we go. Shannon asked, who would be the dream cast?
In terms of modern day casting, I have no idea. But I always, in terms of like because I picture them as like 80s movies. I picture them as kind of like novelizations of movies that never really got made. But Tiffany Helm from Friday the 13th Part 5, she was my inspiration for Cindy. So if I could go back in time to 83 and cast her as Cindy, that would be amazing. I love a lot of the sleepaway camp cast, like Paul D'Angelo, he's the big buff camp counselor guy who's he's got the thick New Jersey accent, and he's always saying, Angela, Mick tells me you haven't eaten anything since you've been here. Is it true? And like he would be like the my Sheehan guy, and I don't know. In Kill River 2, there's like Cindy's enemy. This character, what is her name? Jennifer. And I picture the girl Judy from Sleepaway Camp. I picture her. I just picture a lot of like slasher movie actors superimposed over my stories. So who else? I'm trying to think of anybody else casting wise. I don't know. It'd be really hard. It'd be hard to say. I think like if they were made into movies like nowadays, like modern movies, I think it'd have to be a lot of like relatively unknown actors. I think would be best. But I don't know.
No, that's good. Cami or Jason, do you either of you have a question for Krista at the moment? Otherwise, I feel like I'm I'm kind of hogging the authors here. So
I actually do. If I can interject for both of you, because I was doing some research on you guys, and I happen to follow Kindle reviews pretty regularly, and I love going to that website because there's some amazing author coverage. So if any of you are not following Kindle reviews, I highly encourage you to do so because they archive all their interviews. But both Cameron and Krista have both been interviewed in separate instances, and there was a huge tie-in to music that I feel like connected with on both levels to each of you in different ways. And I'm a huge music buff. And for me, music plays a huge part in stories. Obviously, Cameron, I commend you. You have a soundtrack in your book, and that is freaking awesome. Let me tell you, there's nothing cooler. I was reading, though, with both of you that you have, you were asked how music plays a role in your writing and the influences and so forth. First, I want to interject with Cameron's question. I read a really cool tidbit about you that you in high school sang and played guitar in pop punk bands.
I did,
Can you elaborate on that for us? Because obviously you said Blink-182 is your favorite album of all time.
Oh yeah, Blink-182, Anthem of the State. That's my favorite album of all time. And it just had its 20-year anniversary, which is weird. That makes me feel really old. I was obsessed with Blink-182 in high school. I heard Anthem of the State when I was 14, and it was kind of changed my life. It just kind of opened up my eyes to a whole different thing. And we played in bands, and we played some show. We weren't really big or anything, and I changed my we grew up and we were in college and things like that, but I kept writing music, and I did a couple of like solo albums, and I called myself Lil Cameron as a joke. And that's why my Twitter handle is Lil Cameron. But I did a couple albums. I even wrote like a Friday the 13th song and like a Nightmare on Elm Street song, and I should try to edit like a little video about those. But yeah, I love the old school pop punk. I'm looking forward to the new Blink-182 9 album that's coming out. I think September 20th or something like that. Yeah,
I'm super excited about that too. And New Found Glory is coming out with one also. I am a huge pop punk fan, by the way. Here's a fun fact about me. I used to work behind the scenes with Vans Warped Tour when it was a thing. And so I know a lot of bands and a lot of band members, and I used to be cool. Let's put it that way.
Oh, we all did. I love Blink. I love MXPX. Not really pop punk, but I love Andrew WK. Andrew WK high-fived me once, and it was amazing.
Oh yeah, and he actually he threw one of his wet, bloody T-shirts in my direction. So
Nice.
Yeah, very familiar. But yeah, we totally dive on that, and I absolutely love 80s music. And I can also relate to Krista, because Krista, you were talking about how, influence as far as music in your writing, and how one of your favorite albums of all time is Aerosmith, who I just saw live in Las Vegas, which was absolutely amazing. Hands down, one of the best shows I've seen, despite the fact that they're of geriatric age now. They are still amazing. But you did make mention in an article that I read on you that you had included a lyrical epitaph in the opening of a novel that you had written for Outpost 28. And I think that is so amazing that you did that, because having such a wide musical background myself, and having grown up in a household where rock and country and, just so many levels of music were introduced to me, I think that is a really cool element to writing, and I really appreciate when authors do that. Do you see yourself revisiting that at any time, where you're going to look to incorporate more music in your writing? Or because I know you said you don't think that it plays a huge role, but do you think that that's something that you might look at doing in the future?
Yeah, I think I've found with my writing in just the last 5 years that usually anything that I said regarding my writing seems to change, like things that I kind of thought were more constant. I mean, even just like my writing schedule, when I first started writing, I was very regimented, and now I'm sort of much more loosey-goosey and go with the flow. And I used to not even be able to write with music playing. And that has changed for me. So I feel like it is a way to sort of tap into a different part of my creativity. And I do enjoy incorporating. It's sort of come out in all different ways. Like I've done a lyrical epitaph, and I've done sort of like things about a band that sort of, like I mentioned before, pulling stuff from my real life. I've pulled stuff from my real life having to do with musicians and music. So it sort of pops up in all different strange ways. And I'm very open to whatever that way next would be. I'm kind of enjoying a lot more. I think I started doing it even more this summer. My dog is terrified of thunder and fireworks. So I get her in the room and I put the air conditioning on really high, and then I play music, and then I'm sort of like, well, I'm sort of trapped in here now, and I've got the music going and I wanted to write, like, I'm just going to do it. And the more I do it, the better I get and the more I enjoy it. So that's been fun. So
I'm sorry.
No.
I was gonna ask Chris, do you feel like the music, like, do you ever listen to like a song and it inspires like a scene or something, inspires your writing or anything like that? Just puts a weird like image in your head.
So images are huge for me, definitely. And I have it like right here. I have this whole little super dorky because it's literally like an ideas notebook, but I have a whole like section in here that's like scenes from like lyrics inspiring like full scenes in my head and things that I think are interesting enough to maybe do something with story-wise. I also just love to listen to like creepy instrumental horror soundtracks now while I'm writing something hopefully creepy. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
That's
mentioned
awesome.
that, Krista, because that was something also that I had read about you, and again, this article was about a year ago, because we are actually coming up in August. It's the 1-year anniversary of your book, Something Borrowed, Something Blood Soaked. So yay, happy anniversary to your book publication. But you said that you do find that horror film soundtracks are a good background to your writing. Is this still the case? Because for me, I love horror movies, and I think horror soundtracks bring such a great ambiance. But do you at all find that distracting, or do you think that definitely incorporates some magic into your writing?
Yeah, I think it incorporates magic. I love the Stranger Things soundtrack. I love I think it's The Witch has a good soundtrack. Excuse me. The Neon Demon has a great soundtrack. There's a couple newer horror movies that I really like the soundtracks for. I do kind of crack myself up a lot because I have a horror movie playlist on Spotify, and I haven't ever changed it. I just sort of made it and then I go with it. And Suspiria, the original Suspiria, is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, right? It's like the best. But there's one particular song that when it comes on, it's almost like too distracting, and I'll be like writing and that one comes on and I'm like, God damn it, why is this still on here? So there are limits to like how much I can stand with, I'm still not perfect in music does still sometimes distract me. And I also, I definitely can't do pop kind of stuff where I know a lot of the lyrics, because then I find myself just like staring into space and singing instead of writing. So that's why the horror movie soundtracks usually work well.
Hey, Cameron, I was wondering, since you put song titles in the back of your, sort of like a soundtrack. Actually, you do call it a soundtrack. I don't know what I'm going on about. But do you go to Spotify at all and create lists where people can go and check that out for your books?
I don't have a list on Spotify, but on YouTube actually I do put the playlists where you can. There's a playlist for each of my 4 books. There's like the YouTube playlist of all the. I try to put like the 80s videos, but sometimes there's not a video for the songs that I pick, so I just have to just put the song. But yeah, not Spotify, but YouTube. Yeah, but I pick a lot of these like pop songs and things like that, because I feel like kind of brings you back and kind of really kind of cements in the whole 80s feeling that I always am going for.
I have another question, kind of taking it in a different direction, because there is also another connection between Cameron and Kristen that I found, and that was your inspiration for your favorite horror movie director, and that you both mentioned John Carpenter. I am a stickler. I am a stickler for kind of incorporating all things horror. I think that there are so many different elements that you can draw from movies and music into writing, and put those little nuances and those little Easter eggs, as they call it. And then Krista, you had also mentioned Wes Craven, which he is my all-time favorite. I adored that man. Can you talk a little bit about how horror movies look to influence any future ideas that you have for writing, or any of your past ideas of writing that you've already put out there?
Yeah, did you want me to start? You said?
Yes.
Yeah, go. Yeah.
I think probably the best way, or the biggest way, that horror movies influence me or inspire me is I watch a ton of them. It's basically all I ever watch. And my husband's the biggest horror fan too, but even sometimes he'll be like, do you maybe want to watch something that's not horror tonight? And I'm like, no, not really. And I think that they constantly remind me, and books definitely do this as well, but with the film, you're seeing it on the screen, it's right in your face, it's kind of impossible to ignore this fact. When you watch a lot of horror movies, and a lot of great ones, and you're seeing all sorts of different things, it reminds me that nothing is sort of off limits. Like, I'll sometimes have some crazy idea and then, maybe put it in the ideas notebook and not do anything with it for a while and think like, oh, that probably won't work. I don't know how to make that work. And then I'll watch a movie like, 10 Cloverfield Lane. And that to me was like such a good, I love horror movies that don't just stick to one genre. And that to me was like a kind of like almost like a home invasion, or like a kidnap plot, and then like a, invasion plot, and an apocalyptic plot, and an alien plot. There was just so much going on in that, and that's another reason why I probably talked about this in the Kendall Reviews interview. My favorite horror movie of all time is Martyrs, the original like French Martyrs film, and I love that film because it's like you never know, you constantly can't figure out what type of movie you're watching. It's like, is it psychological? Oh wait, now it's supernatural. Oh no, wait, now it's almost like a torture porn. Oh wait, now it's, something else entirely. And that really inspires me to kind of just do whatever I want on the page, because those are the kinds of things that really just transcend the tropes and make you remember them.
I'm kind of the opposite. I'm all about the 80s slasher thing, obviously. But I'm very also Stan Lee and like superhero influenced, and I love like how Stan Lee kind of created all these different superheroes, but they were like they blended different genres, like how Thor was like an epic fantasy superhero, and you had Cap as like Captain America as like a espionage like War II superhero, but they were all still superheroes. I kind of want to do things like that, where it's with slashers, where it's like, okay, this like I don't know, Kill River's very like standard, straightforward, like Friday the 13th Halloween style slasher, but Disco Death Trap, my other book, is a lot more of like a whodunit slasher, kind of like the original Prom Night, or I guess My Bloody Valentine falls in that category too. But then my newest book is like totally the opposite. It's like a total supernatural slasher, and it's kind of just goes totally different and off the rails. And Disco Death Trap and Golf Curse are completely opposite fields, but they're still slasher stuff. So I kind of like to I just want to experiment with different types of slasher things, and and just really kind of, I think slasher movies and slasher stories kind of get this bad rap for being like just really formulaic and really just kind of everything's the same. But I don't believe that. I think that the structure's the same always, but I think it allows, just that familiar structure allows you to just play with anything you want and just really try to be as creative as possible without having to worry about like explaining your plot. Like everyone knows what the plot is there's just a killer killing people, but you get to just make the killer as interesting as possible and make the characters as interesting as possible and the setting. And so yeah, I definitely like I mean there's different slasher stories that are kind of influencing like the future books, like Blood Rage is like really going to be close to like one that I'm going to do in the future and things like that. But yeah, I hope that kind of answers the question.
Well, and it's definitely a cool premise because, I mean, that kind of sets us up for August when we dive into Kill River 2. I love the fact that you set it up exactly like an expected slasher film, because you left us with Cindy, who exactly a year later, which is the best type of sequel for a slasher film, you're coming in exactly a year, but she has a new boyfriend. Hello, always gets a new boyfriend. So that's like number one check. And then she comes in almost kind of like a final girl, you know, she's ready to go to battle. She's already been through hell and back and she knows what she's going to take on. So I am super excited to take on Kill River 2 because I know it is going to be just as bingeable and just as exciting for, you know, having gone in, because this was actually my first read. And then all of my friends are hyping up Disco Death Trap and Golf Course. So I know those are definitely on my to be read list. And with you, Christa, I'm really looking forward to another anthology. Please tell me you have one in the works.
So I have like a good answer for you and a bad answer for you. I definitely do have the pieces of another collection, but my goal is to, I'm working on a novel that I want to put out first. And it's funny because like I'm being very like about it, because short stories come so much easier to me and it was so much fun to do the collection. So like anytime the novel gets a little bit challenging, I'm sort of like, ooh, well, look over there and you're almost done piecing. No, focus. So I definitely want to like piece together and play with the new collection, but I'm trying to stay focused on the novel that I'm about halfway done with.
No, I think that's exciting, because getting a novel from you is exactly what I think your fans want, just to see that other side of you. It's nice to get that diversity.
Yeah, that answers Laura's question in the chat. I'm trying to make sure we're catching everyone who's messaging us with questions. And yeah, Laura was asking and hoping that you were writing a novel. So I think she's going to be excited about that. Are you at a position you want to say anything publicly about it? It's okay if you're not there yet. We're putting out not ask this at a time.
No, it's totally fine. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I will say that it's definitely different than anything that's in the collection. It's based on a real piece of New England folklore, and it's set in like the late 1800s. It's been really fun to research because the place that it took place in is I'm in Rhode Island, so I'm like right in the best possible position to like do a bunch of research and talk to, you know, actual folklorists and like Gothic scholars and New England folklore scholars. So I've been doing a lot of research. It's halfway done. I'm really excited about it. I do think some of the more common themes to the collection, there is some, you know, it's obviously very dark. It's sort of like ambiguous horror as opposed to like hardcore horror. So it's a little bit, the first novel that I wrote, I never did anything with. I just sort of wrote it and trunked it, was a Gothic horror novel. And I still love that novel. And now that I'm a stronger writer, I might eventually do something with that as well. But then after that, I tried to write like a suspense mystery thriller kind of thing. And I realized that my strengths, while I do like to read those types of books, I did not enjoy writing something like that. So now the project that I'm working on now is 100% like in my sweet spot, and I'm hoping that means that the writing will be, you know, as best as I've put out thus far. That is the hope.
That's awesome. I don't know if you're watching.
Amazing.
Oh, go for it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that sounds amazing because I love New England and I love like period horror too. So I'm like, oh man, I can't wait. That's gonna be cool.
Well, thanks.
I was just going to say, if you're not watching the chat, Krista, everyone's getting really excited. We're saying that sounds fan-freaking-tastic. Someone wants to know if it's about witches, and I know Coral says that she loves that time period. Sounds like a blast. And Laura's excited about ambiguous horror. So your beta audience is very interested in this. If you needed to kind of put that out there and see if you're going in the right direction, it sounds like you are.
Great. So I will just say it is not directly about witches, but it is also 100% about witches, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't. It's like about witches, but it's not about witches. And it's also about vampires, but it's totally not a vampire story. I'm kind of making it super weird, but that's the best I can answer it.
While we're on the topic of new novels, let's turn over to Cameron. Is Kill River 3, is that a rumor or is this happening?
It's happening. That's the one I'm working on. That'll be next year's book. So I'm about, it's hard to say how far I am because I'm about, I think I've got about 55 pages written, but like manuscript pages. So that's really more like 120 print.
Nice.
But yeah, it's kind of weird. This one's different because I'm writing it a little bit out of order. There's like a couple of different plot lines that I'm jumping back. Like when you read it, you'll jump back and forth between the different stories. But writing it, I'm just sticking with one and going all the way towards the end, and then I'll double back and I'll do the next one all the way through, and then I'll double back again. So I'm writing it out of order, but it'll jump back and forth when you read it. But it'll be. I'm very intimidated by it because I kind of, if you've read the first couple of them, I kind of pulled a J.J. Abrams, and I don't really explain a whole lot. I kind of leave a lot of mystery in the books. And when I saw Force Awakens, I was like, oh man, I did that. I just left it all open, and I shouldn't have done that. And so now I'm kind of intimidated because I'm like, I gotta tie up all the loose ends and kind of explain everything. So it'll be cool. I know how it all goes, and I know what happens in it, but it's just kind of it's a big important one for me, so it's a little intimidating.
So as the future of slasher flicks is well known amongst the fans of that genre, we should expect that there should be a Kill River 8 and 9 installment in the future. So what I would want from you, Cameron, is keep the soundtracks going, and at some point our final girl has to age. So can we please get a pop punk soundtrack? That's all I ask. Just putting that out there.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do that because I don't know if I can have the slashers leave the 80s. I kind of almost feel like they have to stay in the 80s. I mean, I know they're a modern.
Let's just get to 1990, and then it can make sense.
Yeah.
We can integrate early punk.
Yeah. I have thought about that, and I've thought about doing kind of, I don't know, something that takes place more in like my own era that I actually lived through. And I thought about doing like a pop punk soundtrack. But pop punk music doesn't really strike me as creepy though. Like, I don't know. When you listen to like Simple Plan, I'm Just a Kid and stuff, it's just
Oh, Simple Plan has some great dark lyrics. If you get into the later era of Simple Plan, they get really intense with some of their lyrics on suicide and stuff. So I definitely encourage you to kind of take a darker look at Simple Plan. And may I also interject with Good Charlotte. Good Charlotte has a lot of dark lyrics too that really touch on a lot of social subjects. So if you need some research, I'm your girl. You've got my Twitter. Just DM me and I will help you with this.
All right. That sounds awesome. I don't know. I'm from the Blink-182 camp, so those guys were always just being super just jokey and weird about it, and they didn't never really took their songs super seriously. That's kind of how I always was too.
They had a couple, not terribly dark, but they had a few on the lines of suicide and stuff like that too. I think every pop punk band at some point has touched the dark side or the dark element, and I think that with a lot of pop punk bands, if you kind of just find one member out of the group, they've come from a background that has some things to say, and so it's just a matter of kind of digging deep. If you haven't yet noticed, guys, I like to dig deep and get inside your heads and figure out why. So I always try to just find those underlining things in anything that I am excited and passionate about, whether it's music, movies, or books, and to incorporate and kind of bring them all in and pair them and make them work together is a really exciting thing for me. But I think I overwhelm people sometimes. They're like, shut up, Cammy. Like right now, shut up, Cammy.
No, I get a lot of the like the songs and the soundtrack parts of my books. They kind of like I'll just hear a song and sometimes it just strikes me as like it just puts like an image in my head and I'm like, oh man, like well, I don't want to ruin the first chapter of Kill River 2, but Kill River 2 starts out with the safety dance. And I was exercising in my apartment gym when I used to live in an apartment. And when I just finished the first Kill River, and I was like a few weeks before, and I was exercising, and I was listening to the safety dance, and it put the whole like first chapter of Kill River 2 in my head, and I was like, oh my god, that's the perfect start. So yeah, they always just kind of, I don't know, the songs always just put. Certain songs just put like different images in my head, and I don't know what it is or why it is, but yeah, it just I don't know if it just puts me in a weird daydream state or something. But anyway,
I think you probably already answered this question a little bit ago, but I just want to ask anyway. The slasher film started in like 1979 with Halloween, and its progression to today has taken quite the turns. I was wondering if you're going to ever direct or ever thought of directing your own fiction, Cameron, in evolving your own work in the way that slasher films have at all.
You mean like kind of having my slasher stories like kind of mirror
sort
like
of
the way
follow like what they went through in the 90s and then the aughts, yeah.
In a way, I mean, my favorite era of slasher stuff is everything between Halloween and 78 to about 85. That's my like, I love all the movies and everything. They kind of they started getting a little jokey and self-parody like towards the later 80s, and you started getting a lot of straight-to-video slashers and things like that. And I don't know. I really am just kind of mostly interested in just kind of sticking in that early 80s era. And I don't know if I'll go much beyond that. I have like the next 4 or 5 books I want to write kind of planned out in my head already, and they all take place. Well, I'm doing my Year of Blood series. All takes place in 1981. That's Disco Death Trap and Golf Curse, and then there'll be more after that. So they all take place in like what they consider the golden year of the slasher. And then Kill River 3 takes place a few months after Kill River 2. So that's on Labor Day weekend in 84. And then beyond that, the other ideas are kind of still more like mid 80s. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever branch out and kind of mirror, like go into like the 90s and do like a Scream style slasher or what. I'm not sure.
Personally, I think that's okay, honestly, because the 80s is like that's my area too. I just absolutely love 80s horror films.
Oh yeah.
They go either really crazy and far out there, or they're like some of the scariest movies ever made. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering also if you ever do go beyond like slasher books, which is a favorite genre of mine. Are you going to stick to the 80s sort of style of what you're doing now?
I don't know. I would love to write books in other decades. I would love to do like a 1950s horror book, or like a even more period horror. Like I would love to do like a really old school, like ancient Egypt or something like that. Like I would love to kind of do more historical horror. I think that would be really fun to do. I love the classic Universal monsters, and I would love to do just kind of just classical feeling horror books too. Like I think I may do that in the future if I ever get burned out of slasher stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to say. Like I do love other genres of horror besides slasher, even though slasher stuff is my main thing. Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole the possibilities are endless. But for right now, I'm kind of obsessed with the slasher stuff, and I think I'm gonna have to burn myself out on it eventually.
Yeah, don't let me encourage you on pulling you out of the 80s, Cameron. That is super cool. I just want that punk side of you to come out. So if you could just give me something from your childhood, that would satisfy my needs. But by all means, stay in the 1980s because that's rad.
Oh, thanks. I used to want to be a filmmaker. I wanted to make Kill River into a movie, and I went to film school and everything, and I did some short films, and I wanted to do this big series, and I kind of wanted to keep it set around like 2003-ish when I was in high school. And I don't know if I'll ever get back to that or not, because I'm having so much fun with the 80s and the slasher stuff that I don't know. I can't imagine going and doing anything else right now. But I don't know. Maybe I will get back to that and put some pop punk in it. That'd be kind of cool.
I think I can speak for everybody when I say yes, please.
I'm just going to interject to say we're about at the hour mark. How are our authors doing? Do we want to say another 10, 15 minutes and call it there? I don't want to burn you guys out tonight.
Oh, I'll stay as long as you guys want.
Okay, I eventually have to go take care of my baby. My husband's watching the live stream, so he knows what I'm up to.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and even I could just like walk away and you guys could keep going without me. I just want to make sure we're getting to some of the questions in the chat. We're definitely not ignoring you. What was it? Mitchell wanted to ask. He asked it to Cameron, but let's do it to both of you. Favorite slasher movie?
Ooh, of the lesser knowns, Sleepaway Camp. Of the mainstreams, God, it's so hard to pick a favorite. I don't know. I love. I'll go Sleepaway Camp. Sleepaway Camp.
I have to say Halloween because it's like the first horror movie that I saw that like cemented my fandom.
That's so good. Thoughts on the 2018 one? Or yeah,
it was good. It definitely was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Another question from Jade at the Bedtime Bookworm. She was asking Christa, what gave you the idea to tie together horror and marriage and weddings and use that as a theme for your collection? You kind of touched on it. That's a bit sort of based off your life, but I imagine also not. So.
Yeah, I think it was probably like coming from a place of like, oh shit, I'm getting married. So that was definitely contributing to it. But I also I like sort of feminist themes in horror anyway, and just one of the best ways for me to sort of shine a light on that and examine it in different ways was through like themes of marriage and good marriage, bad marriage, horrific marriage, connections between the two people in terms of like belief versus disbelief. I'm trying to think of some of the other themes in there, just autonomy and yeah, I don't know. It's just a good way to look at some issues that I wanted to look at in my fiction, and you know, putting the collection together. I had other stories that I considered, and I kind of, there's a marriage theme and there's an addiction theme. And I liked the fact that there were those two themes, but represented by stories within all different subgenres. So I thought that was kind of cool, because I guess if there wasn't the marriage or the addiction theme and it was just these, like there's like the really short piece. Oh my God, I can't even remember what it's called now. I need to open the book. But the short piece, well, a lot of people haven't read it, so I won't even spoil it actually. But there's a flash fiction piece toward the end of the book that's like very gothic. And then it is either prefaced by or immediately followed by like a Ash versus Evil Dead inspired story. So I think the subgenres would have been so disparate that it wouldn't maybe have made for a really cohesive collection, but those underlying themes really worked to tie it together.
That's great. Yeah, no, I just feel bad for your husband. I guess he's come to peace that so much of so much of yourself goes into that. It brings me back to a quote I remember reading by Gillian Flynn that said, and I'm paraphrasing, so someone don't fact check me, but it roughly said to my husband, it was one of her acknowledgments, said to my husband who knows all the dark and disturbing thoughts in my head and is still willing to sleep next to me at night. I don't know,
Yes.
both of you, I guess, yeah. Your spouses, I guess you kind of touched on it, like they somewhat share your appreciation for the dark and stabby, because my husband, I don't know, we go back and forth about how we feel about our horror in the household. He's used to me by now and my stabby books.
Yeah, my husband's just as much of a horror fan as I am. He's not the biggest reader. He loves audiobooks, usually, and I think he's listened to every Stephen King audiobook, and a lot of other, like Nick Cutter has great audiobooks for horror lovers. But yeah, and also too, like I think he knows that like so much of like an idea might be based in something that's like connected to the two of us, but then it veers so far. It's really just the springboard for something that then becomes something hopefully much stabbier.
Love it. How about you, Cameron? It's Darla, right? Your other half?
Yeah, Darla. My wife Darla, she's just as much into. She's definitely like a horror person, so that's nice for me. Once I dated someone who they weren't into horror at all, and obviously that didn't work out. Yeah, Darla's way into horror, and she's not. I don't think she's as much of a reader as I am, but she definitely is always watching horror stuff and horror movies, and we're always creeping each other out. I call her my creepy wife sometimes. My creepy wife.
Do your spouses read your work?
Oh yeah.
So I actually use my husband as the last stop before like submitting something, and I read it out loud to him. And then that's like the way that he gets all of my work, but it also helps me a lot to, when I read something out loud, it allows me to catch things that I didn't otherwise catch. And he catches things that I might have missed. So yeah, that's usually what I like to do with him.
My wife does the same thing. She's always like the first person to read my books. And then I'll go through a couple of drafts of editing, and then I do the same thing. I read it out loud to her, and then I always catch all these typos. And my books are riddled with typos anyway, but you're reading it out loud, you catch like awkward sentences where you're just like, wait, what? That doesn't sound. All right, I gotta change that. That's not good.
In terms of work that you have coming up, I think that one thing, as I read more, I get really excited about book environments. So any type of panels or book ventures that like kind of conventions, I guess, that either of you have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier I'm in Rhode Island, and Necronomicon is in just a couple of weeks in Providence. And I just got my schedule yesterday or the day before. I'm going to be on a couple panels one on the dream cycles of H.P. Lovecraft, and then one on Hoffman, E.T. Hoffman, and his connection to Lovecraft, as well as like Poe and Kafka and Hitchcock, of all people. So I'm really excited about that. And an anthology that I am in through Muzzle Land Press is debuting at Necronomicon. It's quite the title. I'll tell you the title, and then I'll tell you the name of my story. And then I'll pass it over to Cameron, because I will have spoken enough then, because it's a mouthful. It's Behold the Undead of Dracula, Lurid Tales of Gothic Cinematic Horror. That's the anthology title. And then my story title is Cleaver Castle of Carnage presents The Coven Strikes Back. So I'm pretty sure that's the longest anthology and story title that I've ever had or been a part of. So yeah, that's like the next upcoming thing, convention-wise and release-wise, that I have going on.
I don't have any conventions coming up. I live in Colorado, so I'm Krista, I'm super jealous of you, because you're in like prime spot for horror conventions. And I'm like, Colorado, we're kind of isolated out here. It's like a day's drive to get to any other major city, and so I always have to travel kind of far to get to them. But I really, this year I couldn't really do any, because I had to spend a ton of money rebuilding my back deck. We tore it all down, and I had to rebuild that. So and on Instagram and Twitter, like I'm always posting pictures, because we watch slasher movies out there on Slasher Saturdays, and I bought a TV for out there. So so that took up all my money, so I didn't get to do any conventions this year. But hopefully next year I'll be able to get back to it. I really kind of miss doing them, because they're a lot of fun. I mean, you just sit there and I just bring my skeleton. And the last one I did was Spooky Empire in Orlando, and I had to fly out with my skeleton kind of in my bag. I always bring the skeleton, and he sits on my table, and you can come by and high five him. And I sell art prints of my paintings out at the conventions too, and I have my my Kill River bookmarks that I make, where you can stab your place in the book. Yeah.
Oh my god, I need one.
So I always just get those out.
Oh, that's
But, yeah.
awesome.
I need that.
Cameron, you're
I
definitely.
I need to get it.
I was gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
Cameron, you definitely have to tell me the next con that you're going to, because maybe if we're at a con together, your skeleton and my Priscilla the pig head can sit together.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, if you know of any good ones like up in New England, like let me know which ones are the best ones to do, and I'll look into seeing if I can snag a table.
I will totally send you. That's like you said, it is not to rub it in, but this has been like awesome for like StokerCon was here one year, Necronomicon's always here, NeCon is here. There's a lot of great horror cons in New England, so I will definitely send you them.
I love going to New England. I'm a giant Stephen King fan, so I go up to Bangor and hang out a lot. But we always fly into Boston, and then we'll drive up.
Yeah, I will send you a list.
Oh man, that sounds awesome.
Well, I know we're getting ready to wrap up here. I just, again, wanted to say thank you guys so much for answering our questions and for being here and for making this so awesome for us, because, you know, we're just a bunch of reader fans, and this is like a dream come true for all of us. And I really am so excited to see how much the two of you have in common, despite the fact that we put you in different months. It's just been incredible to see all of these cool correlations. So I really do hope that someday we get to meet you in person, and just thank you for all of this extraordinary work that you put out in the world.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having us and for having me and picking my books. This has been amazing. I'm really honored that you guys picked them, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I love checking out the other books too. Checking out Krista's book and reading Anya Alborn's book too. I mean, it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, thank you guys so much for having me be a part of it.
Yeah, ditto to that. It's so cool. And I sometimes have gotten some shit about like, oh, what do you mean you love the sun and you love the beach? Like if you're a horror, you're not a goth horror pale person that needs to I love the beach, but I love my horror. So I was like, bloody beach readathon. This is like the shit. So thank you so much. And yeah, it's been great to read the other books and to meet new people. And I agree that it would be really cool to meet everybody in person someday. So I hope to be able to do that.
Oh my
I
God.
just want to thank everyone too, Cameron and Krista. I think this is the first time I've read both. Well, I know it's for Cameron. I haven't read anything from Cameron yet. I may have read you, Krista, in an anthology or somewhere. But I've really enjoyed Kill River, Cameron. That was so much fun. And I can't wait to dive into the rest of your works, to be honest with you. Never mind Kill River 2. And Krista, your short fiction so far is like blowing me away. It's very dark. It's pissed off. And I love it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. I guess we'll wrap it up here. Apparently, I'm the only one who followed the rules and did not start reading the August early. So you guys are making me look bad. But I'm so excited to get to not only Kill River 2 as well as Something Bored, Something Blood-Soaked. They both sound right at my alley. I am just so excited for that. And I think, yeah, what Krista said really wraps up the read along live stream really well, because the fact is, like, when we started doing this, we wanted to bring together the community and especially highlight the fact that, like, you can read horror all year round. Like, I love the fall because you get all these people reading horror that don't normally read it, but it bugs me that, you know, you talk about beach reads and it has to be something cute and contemporary, and here am I, like, cracking The Exorcist on, like, you know, a hot day on my summer porch. So I really appreciate getting to just kind of highlight horror in the summer months when people don't necessarily think to read it. And to me, this is like the perfect time to read something creepy.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well,
Totally
we're going
agree.
to stop it here, but thank you so much. And of course, we always have links online. So, you know, feel free to tweet out to the official Read Along Twitter, as well as Cameron and Krista being so nice to, you know, chat with us online. So if you have a picture of yourself, like, holding one of their books on the beach, we'd love to see that. So definitely keep us posted, because we're only halfway through summer, but we wanted to do the, you know, this live stream kind of in the middle of the summer months. And yeah, we'll stop here. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll let you go. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.